Wait. Before I tell you this story, you need to understand something. Dominic Kane didn't believe in love. He believed in power, control, and the cold efficiency of a bullet. But the moment he saw those bruises on Emma's neck, everything he thought he knew about himself shattered like glass. The morning started like any other in the 63rd floor office of Kane Industries. Emma Carter straightened her blazer, smoothing down her pencil skirt, and took a deep breath before entering Dominic's office with his espresso, extra hot, no sugar, just the way he liked it. But today, her hands trembled. "Your morning briefing, Mr. Kane," she said softly, setting the cup on his mahogany desk without meeting his eyes. Dominic looked up from his document, his still grey eyes sharp as always. But then he saw it, the scarf wrapped too tightly around her neck on a warm September morning, the way she flinched when she adjusted it. "Take off the scarf, Emma." Her breath caught. "Sir, That wasn't a request." His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper that made even his most hardened associates nervous. But Emma knew something they didn't. Beneath that ruthless exterior, Dominic Kane had a heart that beat a little faster every time she walked into the room. She hesitated, then slowly unwound the silk scarf. Purple and blue bruises marked her pale skin like a violent constellation. Fingerprints. Someone had tried to choke her. Dominic stood so fast, his chair crashed backwards. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Who?" "Mr. Kane, please, it's nothing." "Nothing?" His feet slammed on the desk, making the espresso cup rattle. But when he saw her flinch, something in his expression softened. He walked around the desk slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. "Emma, who did this to you?" She looked down, tears burning in her eyes. For 3 years, she had loved this man from a distance. She had memorized the way he took his coffee, learned to read his moods by the set of his jaw, and fell asleep thinking about the rare moments when he smiled at her. But she also knew his world, a world of underground dealings, of blood and loyalty and debts paid in ways that didn't involve money. She couldn't drag him into her mess. "Give me names, Emma." His voice was softer now, but no less intense. He reached out carefully, his fingers hovering near her jaw, but not touching. "Please." A tear slipped down her cheek. "My ex-boyfriend, Derek, he found out where I work. He's been waiting for me after work, saying I can't just leave him, that I belong to." She didn't get to finish. Dominic pulled out his phone and made a call. "Marcus, I need you to find someone." "Derek." He looked at Emma questionably. "Mitchell," she whispered. "But Mr. Kane, you can't." He held up one finger, his eyes never leaving hers as he continued into the phone. "Derek Mitchell, I want his location in 10 minutes. And Marcus, bring Vincent and the crew." He hung up. "Sir, I appreciate your consent, but this isn't what? My business?" Dominic's jaw clenched. "You are my business, Emma. You've been my business for 3 goddamn years." The air left her lungs. "What?" He ran a hand through his dark hair, looking vulnerable for the first time since she'd known him. "Do you think I don't notice? The way you remember everything I need before I ask for it? How you stay late when I think I'm overwhelmed? That you're the only person in this city who looks at me like I'm human? Mr. Kane." "Dominic, my name is Dominic, and I'm tired of you calling me anything else." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, sandalwood and something darker. "I've fought wars, Emma. I've built an empire from blood and ash, but I've been too much of a coward to tell you that every morning the only reason I show up to this office is because I know you will be here." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. You have feelings for me?" "Feelings?" He laughed bitterly. "I'm consumed by you. But I told myself you deserve better than a man like me. Someone clean, someone safe." His eyes hardened as they flicked to her bruises. "But safe men don't seem to be treating you very well, do they?" Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression turned glacial. "He's at your apartment building right now." Emma grabbed his arm as he headed for the door. "Dominic, please don't do something you will regret." He turned back, and for a moment, she saw past the mafia boss to the man underneath, the one who'd lost his family young, who'd built walls so high no one could hurt him again. "The only thing I regret," he said quietly, "is not killing him the first time he touched you." The drive to her apartment in Dominic's Mercedes was tense and silent. Emma watched the city blur past, her mind racing. She had seen glimpses of Dominic's other life, the meetings that ran late, the men in dark suits who visited his office, and the rumors that swirled around King Industries like smoke. But she had never seen him like this, dangerous, deadly, protective. When they pulled up to her building, she spotted Derek immediately. He was leaning against his car, smoking a cigarette, that familiar cruel smirk on his face. "Stay in the car," he ordered. "Like hell I will. This is my problem." He cupped her face gently, his tongue brushing her cheek. "Not anymore. You are mine to protect now. Understand?" The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel safer than she had in months. Dominic exited the car, and Derek's smirk faltered when he saw who was approaching. Everyone in the city knew Dominic Kane by reputation, even if they'd never met him. "You, Derek Mitchell?" Dominic's voice was calm, too calm. Derek straightened, trying to appear confident. "Who's asking?" "The man whose woman you put your hands on." Derek's eyes widened slightly. Then he laughed, a nervous, brittle sound. "Emma, is this a joke? That uptight little—" He didn't finish. Dominic moved faster than Emma had ever seen anyone move, grabbing Derek by the throat and slamming him against the car. Derek struggled, his face turning red, and Emma felt a sick sense of déjà vu, watching him choke the way he'd choked her. "Please," Derek gasped. "I didn't know. She never said." "Did she say stop? When you put your hands on her, did she tell you to stop?" Derek couldn't answer, couldn't breathe. Emma jumped out of the car. "Dominic, stop!" For a terrible moment, she thought he wouldn't listen. His eyes were black with rage, and Derek's face was turning purple. Then Dominic seemed to remember himself. He released Derek, who collapsed to the ground, coughing and gasping. But Dominic wasn't done. He crouched down, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried. "You're going to leave this city. Tonight, you're going to disappear, and you're never going to speak her name again. Not to your friends, not to your family, not even in your prayers. Because if I hear you've been within 100 miles of Emma Carter." He leaned closer. "I have friends in very dark places, Derek. Places where men disappear and nobody asks questions. Do we understand each other?" Derek nodded frantically, tears streaming down his face. "Good." Dominic stood and pulled out an envelope from his jacket. He had prepared this before they left, Emma realized. Inside would be money, enough to make a man disappear. "Take this and run. You have until sunrise." Derek grabbed the envelope and scrambled to his car, speeding away without looking back. Emma stared at Dominic, her emotions a tangled mess. You can't solve every problem with threats and money." "Can't I?" He turned to her, and she saw that his hands were shaking. "Emma, I have done terrible things in my life. I've made choices that keep me up at night, but letting someone hurt you isn't going to be one of them." He stepped closer, his voice raw. "Don't you understand? I would burn this entire city down before I let anyone touch you again." "That's not love," she whispered. "That's obsession." "Maybe." His eyes searched hers desperately. "Or maybe I've just finally found something worth being obsessed with." A black SUV pulled up, Marcus and the crew, arriving to find the situation already handled. Marcus waved them off with a curt nod, and they disappeared as quickly as they came. Emma wrapped her arms around herself. "I should go inside." "Not yet." Dominic moved in front of her, blocking her path. "Not until you tell me the truth. Do you feel it too, this thing between us? Or have I been imagining it for 3 years? Her breath caught. She dreamed of this moment countless times, but never like this. Standing in a parking lot, with the taste of violence still in the air, with bruises on her neck,
and fear in her heart. But when she looked into Dominic's eyes, she didn't see the ruthless mafia boss the world feared. She saw the man who remembered her birthday, who bought out the entire flower shop when she mentioned loving peonies, who looked at her like she was the only light in his dark world. "I feel it," she admitted quietly. "God help me. I've felt it since the day you interviewed me. When you smiled at that stupid joke I made about coffee being a personality trait, I knew I was in trouble." A real smile broke across Dominic's face, rare and devastating. That was a terrible joke. It was an amazing joke. Despite everything, she found herself smiling back. "Emma," he reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently touched the bruises on her neck. His jaw clenched. "I promise you, as long as I'm breathing, no one will ever hurt you again. But I need to know, can you handle my world, the darkness that comes with being mine?" Emma thought about it, really thought about it. She'd be lying if she'd said the violence didn't scare her. But she'd also seen the other side of Dominic Kane, the man who donated anonymously to children's hospitals, who gave jobs to people no one else would hire, who was fiercely loyal to those under his protection. "I'm not naive," she said finally. "I know who you are, what you do. I've known for a while, and I'm not asking you to change. I'm not sure you could even if you wanted to. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that the man I see in the office, the one who says please and thank you, who remembers that I take my tea with honey, who looks at me like I matter, promise me he's real, that he's not just an act." He took her hands in his grip warm and steady. "He's the most real part of me, the only real part maybe. Everything else is survival. But with you," he pressed her palm against his chest, where his heart hammered. "With you, I remember what it feels like to be human." A tear slipped down her cheek, and he caught it with his thumb. "Come home with me," he said softly. Just to be safe. I have guest rooms, security, whatever you need. Just let me know you're protected tonight." She should say no, should establish boundaries. But after months of fear, of looking over her shoulder, the idea of feeling safe was too tempting to resist. "Okay," she whispered. Dominic's penthouse was exactly what Emma expected. Expensive, minimalist, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city. What she didn't expect was the bookshelf of full, well-worn novels, the framed photograph of a young Dominic with an older woman who must have been his mother, the baby grand piano in the corner. "You play?" she asked, touching the keys. "My mother taught me." His voice was soft with memory. Before everything went wrong, music was the last piece of normal I had." Emma sat on the bench and played a few notes of Clair de Lune, clumsy, but recognizable. "My grandmother taught me. I'm not very good." Dominic sat beside her, his fingers finding the keys with practiced ease. He completed the melody, the notes floating through the apartment like a prayer. When he finished, the silence felt sacred. "I never bring anyone here," he said quietly. "This is the only place where I can be just me, not the boss, not the monster people whisper about, just Dominic."
Emma turned to face him on the bench, her knee brushing his. "You are not a monster. You don't know everything I've done. I know enough, and I know that monsters don't cry at the end of It's a Wonderful Life when they think no one's looking." His eyes widened. "You saw that. You left your office door cracked. It was Christmas Eve, and I was working late. You were watching it on your computer." She smiled softly. "That's when I knew for sure." "Knew what?" "That I was falling in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and fear. Dominic's breath caught, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that made her feel transparent. "Emma!" His voice was rough. If you're going to take that back, do it now. Because once you say those words to me, once I let myself believe them, I won't be able to let you go. Ever. Good, she whispered, because I don't want to be let go. He kissed her then, soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she might break. But Emma had been waiting 3 years for this moment, and she wasn't interested in tentative. She kissed him back with all the pent-up longing she'd been carrying, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. Dominic groaned against her mouth, his arms wrapping around her waist, lifting her onto his lap on the piano bench. Keys clanged discordantly beneath them, but neither cared. His hands tangled in her hair, tilted her head back so he could trail kisses down her jaw, her neck. He froze when he reached the bruises. "I'm sorry," he breathed against her skin. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there to stop this." "You're here now," she whispered back. "That's what matters." He pulled back to look at her, his eyes bright with emotion. "I love you, Emma Carter. I've loved you since you walked into that interview wearing mismatched socks because you are nervous. I've loved you through every coffee order, every late night, every smile you gave me that I didn't deserve. And I'll love you for every day I have left on this earth." Emma felt tears streaming down her face, but they were happy tears this time. "I love you too, even though you're grumpy before 9 a.m. and you scare people for a living, and you have terrible taste in ties. My ties are excellent. They are horrible," she laughed through her tears, "but I love you anyway. I love you because you are kind when you think no one is watching, because you are loyal to a fault, because underneath all that armor, you're the man who still believes in happy endings, even if you pretend you don't." Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "I never believed in happy endings, not until you." They sat there in the dim light of the penthouse, holding each other as the city sparkled below them. Outside, the world kept turning. Deals were made, empires rose and fell, and darkness crept through the streets. But in that moment, Dominic Kane found something he thought lost forever: hope. "Stay with me," he murmured into her hair. "Not just tonight. Stay with me forever. Wake up in my arms. Let me make you coffee badly. Let me protect you. Let me love you the way you deserve." Emma pulled back to look at him, seeing her future reflected in his eyes. "Forever is a long time." "Not long enough," he said fiercely. "Not nearly long enough for everything I want to do with you." Over the next few weeks, Emma's life transformed. She still worked as Dominic's secretary. She loved her job too much to give it up. But now she wore his ring on her finger and slept in his arms every night. The office gossip was intense at first, but one cold look from Dominic shut it down permanently. Derek was never heard from again. Emma didn't ask, and Dominic didn't tell. Some things were better left in the dark. But the darkness wasn't all there was anymore. Dominic started coming home earlier, teaching Emma to play piano properly, laughing more freely. He introduced her to Marcus and the crew, who accepted her with surprising warmth once they saw how happy they made their boss. Emma learned to navigate Dominic's world, the danger, the secrets, the constant need for vigilance. It wasn't easy. There were nights when he came home with blood on his knuckles and shadows in his eyes, and she had to be strong enough to pull him back to the light. But there were also mornings when she walked to him watching her with wonder, like he couldn't believe she was real. Evenings when he surprised her with picnics on the penthouse balcony. Quiet moments when he played piano while she read, their silence comfortable and complete. 3 months after that day in the parking lot, Dominic took Emma to the roof of his building at sunset. The city spread out below them like a living painting, golden light washing over everything. "I built this empire," Dominic said, gesturing to the skyline, "brick by bloody brick.
I thought that was my legacy. Power, fear, control. He turned to her, taking both her hands. But then you walked into my life with your terrible jokes and your mismatched socks and your ridiculous optimism that somehow survived working for a man like me. And I realized this empire means nothing. The money, the power, all of it. It's worthless if I don't have someone to share it with. Emma's heart raced as Dominic dropped to one knee. I already asked you to stay forever, he said, pulling out a velvet box. Emma Carter, will you marry me? Will you be my wife, my partner, my light in the darkness? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of you? The ring was stunning, a brilliant diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught the fading sunlight and threw rainbows across the roof. But Emma wasn't looking at the ring. She was looking at Dominic's face, seeing the vulnerability there, the hope, the love that blazed brighter than any diamond. Yes, she breathed. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on her finger with shaking hands, then stood and swept her into his arms, spinning her around as she laughed. When he set her down, he kissed her deeply, pouring 3 years of longing and forever of promises into it. I love you, he whispered against her lips. My Emma, my light, my everything. I love you too, she whispered back. My Dominic, my protector, my home. As the sun set over the city, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple, Emma Carter stood in the arms of the man she loved and felt something she never thought she'd ever feel again. Safe, cherished, whole. Dominic Kane had built an empire on fear and blood, but he had found salvation in the quiet strength of a woman who saw past his armor to the man beneath. She had taught him that love wasn't weakness, it was the greatest strength of all.
And in that moment, with the city sparkling below them and forever stretching ahead, both of them understood something profound. They'd been broken separately, but together they were unbreakable. Forever, Dominic promised, his forehead resting against hers. Forever and ever, Emma agreed. And in the gathering darkness, 2 wounded souls finally found their way home, not to a place, but to each other. The mafia boss and his secretary, the monster and his light, the broken man and the woman who loved him anyway. Together, they would face whatever came next. Together, they would build not an empire of fear, but a kingdom of love. And that, as it turned out, was the most powerful thing of all. Sometimes, the most dangerous men need the gentlest hearts. Sometimes, the strongest love grows in the darkest places. And sometimes, the person who saves you is the one you least expect. This is their story. This is their forever.